McDonald, let's get right at it. Joining us now, House Oversight Chairman James Comer. Congressman, okay, this story, it's good to have you on. It's good to see you again. President Biden blocking weapons shipments to Israel, but the Associated Press reports the president wanted to delay letting voters know about this until after Biden gave a speech on Holocaust Remembrance Day. So, Congressman, this is all about politics for Biden? Have you ever heard of any president doing anything like this with a U.S. ally? Hamas is still holding Americans hostage.
Yeah, everything Joe Biden's doing now with respect to Israel is political. He's basing his whole Israel policy around trying to please a few voters in Detroit, Michigan, to try to be able to carry that important swing state. He's forgotten and disregarded all the history we have with Israel, the fact that Israel's our closest ally, the fact that Hamas still has 5 American hostages, and the fact that Congress appropriated in a bipartisan manner the weaponry that he has unilaterally withheld. So everything Joe Biden's doing now is wrong, it's illegal, and I hope that we can hold him accountable in Congress.
You know, reasonable people want a humanitarian end to this. Hamas is the cause of Gaza's suffering. The president accused of misleading, too, making like it's only about 1,000-pound bombs. No, Biden embargoed a whole range of much smaller weaponry like tank shells, artillery shells, devices that convert bombs into smart precision bombs. There's a whole lot of misleading going on here.
There is, and Joe Biden has a history of not telling the truth. Believe me, I can talk for 2 hours about that. But with respect to this issue at hand, this dictates our entire foreign policy. We have to make sure that Israel can defend itself. And the terms that Joe Biden's unilaterally putting on Netanyahu and Israel, not allowing them to defend themselves, not allowing them to take out Hamas, who I think by all accounts is the worst terrorist group of them all. It's wrong that what Joe Biden's doing, and it shows that the Democrat Party has been taken over.
We want your reaction to this. Former President Trump, his motion to modify the gag order was denied. Here's the president speaking.
Explaining I'm not allowed to anyway because this judge is corrupt. He's a corrupt judge. This judge, what he did and what his ruling was is a disgrace. Everybody saw what happened today. He's a corrupt judge and he's totally conflicted. And I got to get back on the campaign trail. I'm not supposed to be here. We are so innocent. There's never been anything like it. Read every single analyst, legal analyst. I'm innocent, and I'm being held in this court with a corrupt judge who's totally conflicted. Take a look at his conflict. It's a disgrace to the city of New York, to the state of New York, and to the country. Thank you very much.
Okay, Congressman, that was former President Trump speaking about another motion to get a gag order lifted. That was denied. Let's get back to the issue at hand. Let's talk about Israel. Former President Trump has gone after Biden for holding up shipments of weapons to Israel. President Trump doesn't like that. Israel cannot defeat Hamas without entering Rafah. That's its final stronghold. Israel's, you've talked about this too. Israel is surrounded by enemies. Just a month ago, Iran bombed Israel in the biggest drone attack in history. This is about terrorists who have massacred children, women, men, and seniors, sexually tortured, kidnapped, still holding U.S. American citizens hostage. Let's listen to this.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. But I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers. If you look at the data, these demonstrations are real, but they're not nearly, I mean, look, and I made a speech on the Holocaust the other day.
So, Congressman, you know what's going on? This president wants the whole nation to be on his schedule, on his agenda, on his timeline. Democrats in Israel are slamming Biden for prioritizing his re-election over getting American hostages out. It used to be the U.S. does not negotiate with terrorists. Now Biden is negotiating for terrorists.
Yeah, it's wrong. Joe Biden is doing this. It's political. This is a quid pro quo. This is a policy decision he made using American tax dollars for political benefit. The last time he did something like that, it was for financial benefit when he withheld the Ukrainian foreign aid. But with respect to Israel, everything Joe Biden's doing is trying to appease the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party that has become so vocal. They're leading the campus protests all across America, and he's punishing Israel. Anyone who studies history, anyone who's read the Bible knows that we have to stand with Israel. If we don't allow Israel to defend itself, we're going to have World War III in our hands, and Joe Biden has not demonstrated an ability to be a great military leader. We saw that in Afghanistan. We've seen that over the past 3.5 years, and Joe Biden needs to change course right now and allow Israel to have the weapons that Congress approved and allow Israel to defend itself.
Even people who don't read the Bible see what's going on as morally wrong. He's also defied the constitutional separation of powers again. After the Supreme Court, said he was wrong to do a student loan bailout, circumventing Congress, now we're hearing Congressman Corey Mills is filing an impeachment resolution against Biden over what he did with Israel. The idea that he wanted to not tell the world what he was doing until after he gave a speech just smacks of raw politics. Final word.
It is. And look, he did the same thing with his classified documents that he mishandled. He's not been truthful with the American people about when they discovered that he mishandled those classified documents. Joe Biden has no credibility when it comes to telling the truth.
Okay, Congressman Comer, thanks for working with us and that difficult story. We'll stay on it. We appreciate you so much for joining us.